All right, so Chidima, thanks for joining us today. We are so glad to have you, like I've mentioned earlier, and I'm so happy to have this conversation with you. Right, like I said, this is something that I believe you have been passionate about for the longest time that I've known you. Right, so good to be here. So today we are talking of from zero to hired, a roadmap to becoming a UI UX designer and working remotely. That is what we are focused on today. Right. So I think we can jump into it. Our model for today is a question and answer model. So I'm going to be the host for today. My name is Blessing Obiyomi. And like I said earlier, I lead the team at TSA. So I'm going to be asking a series of questions that borders around some of the things I want you to learn today. What does it mean to be a designer? What are the fundamentals of UI UX design? Um, how do you position yourself to get international roles? How do you network, right? Where are you supposed to set jobs and things like that? Those are the things that we're going to be, our conversation is going to be focusing on in that regard, right? So I have a series of questions that I'm going to ask Chidima, and Chidima is going to giving us our insights into these questions, right? And like I said earlier, if you have any question, you can note them down and you can ask them during the course of the call. All right, so Chidima, let's dive into it. So before we dive into the complexity of job hunting, I just want to make sure that everyone on this call that we're on the same page when it comes to understanding the basic concept of UI UX. Many times beginners are used to using the terms interchangeably. Some people are saying UI UX, and some people do not even know the difference. When we say UI UX, what does it even mean? Right. So I would just want you to do like a brief breakdown, right, of what UI UX mean. What does it mean at the basic level, so that everybody on this call. I think when we took the sensor earlier, we see quite a high percentage of people that are saying they are newbie, right? This is the first time they're probably hearing something deep about UI. So we take it very simple from there, then we climb on from there. Over to you, Jujima.
Okay, thank you so much, Bless. Hi everyone, good evening again. And just as Blessing introduced, my name is Chidima. I have been a designer now for about 4 years, going on 5 years. I'm sorry if I sound a bit off. I've been ill for a couple of days and I'm just recovering. Okay, so UI UX, and true to what you said, Blessing, like a lot of people interuse or misuse the term UI UX. In fact, people misuse UI UX designer with UX researcher and product designer, and like these are like different. I mean, they are intertwined but different things really. So a UI designer is somebody who focuses on, or UI is first of all user interface, and then UX is user experience. So it's mostly UI design, which is user interface design, and then UX design, which is user experience design. So UI design, first of all, is I'm going to start with UX because that's the basic thing. So UX design or user experience design is basically focused on creating digital products that are meaningful and satisfying to users, right? So it includes all the different aspects of the user's interaction with the product. So if you want to ensure that the product that you're launching out or you're giving to people is not just, I mean, yes, it should be fine. Why not? It should be attractive, but does it have the right content? Is it actually helping users? There are like four different terms basically of how what a good user experience should be. The first one is that a good user experience should be usable, a good user experience should be enjoyable, a good user experience should be equitable, and a good user experience should be useful. So your UX design or user experience design is basically what helps you focus on that. User interface design, on the other hand, focuses on creating the elements and interactive features of a user interface. So let me break it down. So, for instance, if you're going to build a house, the foundation of the house, the structure, and what you actually, for instance, if it's a bungalow now, it's not going to be the same foundation or the same structure as what you do if it's a 7-story building, for instance, right? So UX design is the foundation, Then UI design is now the beautification of the house. So you've put all the things on top of it, which are the elements, and then you now paint the house, you put the windows, you put all those different things, but the structure is there. And the reason why I'm starting this way is because I think a lot of designers, especially people who are just jumping into design, who maybe don't have like a lot of experience, you just see them just go to dribble and just go and maybe just go and redesign something or just go and start from there and all of that. And you don't even understand why you're actually designing that particular thing. How is that particular thing going to help a user? So a lot of designers just jump into the UI aspect of things, and by the time you churn that product out there, it is not usable by people. So that UX design is actually very crucial. So yeah, so that is basically the difference between UI and UX design. And obviously the two of them have to work together for you to churn out good products. So yeah, basically I don't want to do too much. Let's just continue. Yeah. Hi person, are you there? Hello. Hi blessing, are you there? Okay. So I'm seeing, I think somebody dropped in the chat product design. Favor, do you have a question on that, or do you want me to expand on that basically? Just so that we're clear. Yeah, I think Wesley is having network issue. Product design. Okay, how is different from UI UX design? Okay, that's actually a good question. So, like I said, right, UI UX design basically incorporates those things. So, product design is actually part of it. But simply put, product design is the act of designing a product that solves a specific problem. So I'll say it's the process of developing, ideating, and refining products to ensure that it meets the user's needs. So you're not just trying to meet the user's needs. When you're talking about product design, now you're also including the business as well. So it has to also meet the business needs. So the major difference or slight difference, right? I mean, they're similar, but sometimes they can be misused or misused basically. So the major difference between product design and UI UX design is number one, product design encompasses UI UX design. So it's like the daddy of UI UX design. It encompasses it. Um, UI UX design, on the other hand, focuses on making the product easy to use. So in product design, you also collaborate with cross-functional teams. So remember what I said about UX design, where you're doing research, that's like laying the structure of things, right? But in product design, in this regard, you're not just laying the structure, but you're collaborating with cross-functional teams. For instance, me as a product designer, I work with the marketing team, I work with the operations team, I work with sales team. In fact, I go out with the sales team to go and watch them sell a product or even sell a product with them just so that I can understand better. A UI UX designer might not necessarily do that. You can do your research and all of that. It's not the onus is not on you to do all of that or go that extreme. And then I work with engineers. I try to ensure that, I mean, as a UI UX designer, you should do this, right? But a product designer majorly does all of this. You have to ensure that what you're actually giving. In fact, I get numbers from customer support as a UI product designer, and I call them to understand how they are using the product, how easy it is for them to use, how difficult, and then I just try to learn from that. And then a product designer is basically responsible for the entire life cycle of the product, from the conceptualization stage where you're going to sell with the sales and marketing team, right? Till when it now comes out, after it has come out, the testing, every single thing that is part of that basically. So product design, UI UX design, but the only thing is that a product designer, sorry, does slightly more than a UI UX designer. there are like more expectations on a product designer than a UI UX designer. I hope that answers your question, Favor. I don't know if Blessing is
Back. Thank you very much. It was a network glitch. Thank you very much. All right. So I think that clarifies the distinction. So UX is more like the science of how this thing works, and UI is the guy that does the design and
yeah.
executes all in that regard. So thank you for this for that clarification. So the next question that we have here, or that I have here, is so when I'm stepping into UI UX design, it's a bit very easy for to get overwhelmed by the sheer amount of skills that needs to be learned, right? So from wireframing to prototyping to usability testing to research. So what would you say is a skill that is in there for a UI UX designer to learn today, especially given the fact that everybody's looking for global opportunities, right? So how do we position as what skills you would need to learn, right, so that we can get international client to value us as a designer remotely?
Yeah. Okay. That's actually a good one because I think this is another aspect that a lot of people just miss out on. I think I saw something in the chat. I think someone was asking, is it mandatory to learn graphic design, etc., tools like Photoshop and also yeah. I mean, it's different. So for instance, I mean, best I'm going to come to that. Let me just quickly and then I'll try to tie it into the skills. So for instance, now when it comes to graphic design, you have to be loud with your colors. You have to use like serif fonts. I'm sure you guys understand different, or maybe we'll talk more on that between sans serif and serif fonts. You have to use serif fonts. You have to be loud. Use like yellow or red, all those different things like that because it's graphics. You want people to notice it from a distance. But with UI UX design, you can't do that. Or with product design, you can't do that. You have to use serif fonts, moderate fonts. It doesn't have to be so stylistic, simple, easy to the user, right? Because one of the major skills is that you're trying to solve people's problem. And problem solving skills is a skill which is very, very necessary. I'll say that's the number one thing because as a designer, you're a problem solver. You're not just here to just churn out something that looks fine. Is it fine? That's it. Which is why when I was trying to explain the difference between UI and UX design, I started from the UX part of things where I said you have to understand that part. And I said the UX or user experience is basically the foundation, right? So the first skill that I'll say is problem solving skills. So with UI UX design, you're not just looking at the symptoms, you're trying to address the root cause of the issue. For instance, if you go to a doctor right now and you say, "Oh, and doctor asks you what's wrong with you," what you say, "Oh, doctor, I think I have typhoid," and doctor says, "Oh, what are the symptoms that you have?" You say, "Oh, my mouth is dry, um, I have cold." I'm having fever, I'm having headache. And the doctor now looks at the root cause and say, "Oh, have you been exposed to mosquitoes recently?" And you say, "Yes." They now try to figure out that what is actually wrong with you is malaria, not typhoid. Do you get? So problem solving is the first one. Then the second one that I would say is effective communication. Remember that I said that as a product designer, even as a UI UX designer, you are going to be communicating effect. You need to communicate effectively, or will I say you need to know how to communicate effectively with different teams and stakeholders. So for instance, now if I was very poor with communication, my company will not allow me to go out with the sales team to go and sell because they'll feel like, this one is going to go and disgrace us. She doesn't know how to talk or she'll go and over talk or something. So they will not allow me to do that. And then I also have to work with the engineers. I'm sure if you're on design Twitter, for instance, you always see where engineers and designers are always dragging themselves, right? And I mean, as somebody who has been in this space for a long time, that's facts. So engineers and especially front end designers always tend to have that rift because maybe the front end designer would be like, "Oh, I can't implement this particular thing that you designed. Why will you even design it this way?" And then product designer will be like, "No, you have to design it that same way or something." There's always that kind of rift, right? But you need to know how to communicate and express your ideas effectively. So if you're churning out a solution, why is that solution important? So for instance, now where I work, even in side gigs that I've done, I do a number of side gigs. So even in side gigs that I've done, when I do something right for every phase of the product. So let's say I'm designing a mobile app and I do the onboarding phase, I'll need to show and present the onboarding phase to the company and all of that. So I need to explain why I have gone a particular route in the onboarding phase and just different features like that. So you need to know how to communicate effectively. Because like I said, you cannot be a UI UX designer and you're working on your own. That's why I said that whole thing of people just going to Dribble or Instagram or wherever to go and get inspiration and you want to redesign the inspiration doesn't work as a UI UX designer. You have to understand the root cause of it. So another thing is critical thinking. You need to know how to critically think through a process, a design process. I'll give you an instance. So we're trying to churn out some products, right? And we've been working on this for a very long time, over 1 year. And I think it was 2 days ago or something. We're about to launch, and 2 days ago, we realized that a particular feature wasn't going to help a specific number of businesses. And again, remember that we've been working on this for over a year, and somehow we missed that particular aspect. So, as a designer now, I now had the onus was on me. I mean, they will not tell you, but it's you basically, right? Because it's you that will come and drag. And the onus was on me to think, oh, how am I going to try to reshape my design into ensuring that it fits this particular, I'm sorry, I can't go into the details, but to ensure that it fits this particular business and that it doesn't break things, even on the engineering end. And I had to come up with that as quickly as I could. And how did I come up with that? I had to have a conversation with that particular business. I went to their office. I tried to understand what the problem was. Remember, I said you're a problem solver. I need to understand the root cause of the issue, and then I was able to solve that. So critical thinking is very important. Then visual design. So even if you finish doing the structure, remember UI UX design, UI design, foundation, beautification. So even if you've done the beautification, the foundation of the house, and the house is not fine, who will you rent it to? For instance, the you have I don't know, the house is red, you painted it red or something, it's giving native doctor house or something. Who will you rent it to? Do you get what I'm saying? So you need to understand visuals as well. You need to understand colors, typography. Just like I said, you cannot use a serif font on a product. You need to understand layout. You cannot use if you see your basic apps that you use. I'm sure probably every one of us here uses Twitter or Instagram. If it's light screen mode that you're using, the background is like white. So it's not red or pink or something. And then if it's dark screen mode, the background is that dark shade, right? So you need to understand that. Then user centric, you need to understand the user's needs. You are designing this for a user, you need to understand the user's needs. Then teamwork and collaboration. Remember when I was speaking about effective communication? So you need to know how to actually work with people because you cannot work alone as a designer. Then even if you're doing a side gig, you have to work with the owner of the business. You probably have to go and work with, speak to users, collaborate with the engineers and all of that. So teamwork and collaboration is important. Research, you need to know how to do research. You cannot skip research. That's why user research is very important in user experience. Then just technical knowledge, understanding or familiarizing yourself with the latest technical trends. I'll say those are the basic skills that you need to know. Obviously, designing, prototyping, iteration, all those things as well. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Idima, for that detailed, comprehensive response. So I'll just do like a summary of some of the things that Chidima has mentioned in terms of the skills that you focus on. Chidima, I think you helped me with the first one, but let me go through it. What I have visual design,
Mm.
communication, critical thinking, user-centric, teamwork and collaboration, research. There's the first one you mentioned that I think I missed.
Problem solving.
Problem solving. So problem solving. So there you have it. So I just go over it again so that you can note them down. Problem solving, communication, effective communication, by the way, visual design, critical thinking, user-centric, meaning that the product that you're doing has to be user-focused. You don't design something yourself and you think it's going to work. You have to start from the user, right? And then work something that works for them. Again, teamwork and collaboration, research, are some of the things that you need to um, skill set that you need, especially if you want to if you are looking for opportunities at the international level. Okay, so moving on. So there's one thing that I've seen with beginners um, is that they often don't know which path they want to follow, because I mean UI UX in itself is also a little bit broad field in that sense, right? So they are not sure which path they want to follow, right? Of course, they've even started from the fact that which tech skill should they learn. Now they have decided to learn UI UX, and they are not even sure what what path to follow as far as UI is concerned. We have interaction designer, we have product designer, we have UX researcher, and all of that. So for someone just breaking into UI UX, how do you suggest that they decide the career paths to follow? What are the things that they need to, look out for, so that they can know that I think this is the path I want to follow in that regard?
Okay. So this is a two-way. I think this is like a two-way. I'll give a two-way response to this. So the first one is you can decide to just choose one and stick with it. The second one is you can decide to do all of them, which is now product design, which is why I said, oh, product design is broader. So, for instance, it depends on your skills. So, if you're somebody who is mostly interested in research, you just want to do the market research, you just want to go out and speak to customers, you just want to, you're not interested in the design aspect of things. I have friends like that who they are just UX researchers. That's their job. So they don't do visual design, right? They know how to do visual design, but it's just not their focus in their organization. So they just do the UX research and then they collaborate with the UI designer. So if you're somebody who that is what you want to focus on, you're very interested in the research and just solving problems, just like we said. So you can focus on the user research part of things or research development or whatever they are called. Um, then there's UI designer, or some people call it visual designer. I also have some friends like that who they still do a little bit of research, because before you actually bring something into light, you have to do some research. Or they work hand in hand, they are best friends with the UX researcher. So they would work with what the UX researcher has done and then come up with UI design. There are some people who they just focus on designing. They just design brand colors. They just design, for instance, now for Twitter, if Twitter is coming up with a product, they can design all the particular colors you can use for that particular product. They can come up with all the icons you can use. They can come up with the design system of the product, all those different things like that. So you can decide to focus on that. So there are just all these different aspects of things. There's also the interaction designer. There are some people who just want to focus on doing interactions. So they probably do the visual design. They probably don't focus as much on the user experience design, but they work hand in hand with the with the user experience designer, but they focus more on the interactions, making sure that it's very interactive. One of my favorite apps is Duolingo. I don't know how many of you know Duolingo. So with Duolingo, if you use it, this game is like a game, it's gamification, but it has like a lot of interactions and stuff like that on the application. So then there are just different aspects of it. And then there's a product designer who basically does everything. There are also people who are AI designers who focus rather, oh my god, sorry, who focus on designing for AI products or designing with AI. Do you get? Then there are those who are design strategists. There's just a lot of them, but it depends on what your strength is. So I'll say that basically try to know what your strength is if you want to get into design. What particular thing am I strong in? Because for you to actually thrive in this career, you have to enjoy what you're doing and you have to always try to learn more and do more. So for me, for instance, even though I'm a product designer, I still know how to use no code tools like Webflow and Framer to churn out designs, right? To implement designs. I'm still trying to learn some aspects of front-end design. So I'm not just doing my design. And then I still do AI design as well. So it depends on what you want to get into, what your strengths are. But at the end of the day, you also need to keep learning more things just so that you remain relevant in the market. Because whether you face it or not, everybody who wants to get into tech and doesn't want to code or doesn't want to do data mostly does product design or product management, either of those things. And so the market is very saturated. So you need to just keep learning more things and updating yourself. Yeah.
Thank you. Find your strengths, know what works for you, or find what it is that you enjoy. Those are the two responses that you've got. So, two ways you can also do that. You can pick one based on those two things that we just mentioned, strength and passion, and focus on it and work on it, right? Or you can decide to work on everything. Maybe if I were to that, sometimes when you're working on everything, you might also find what it is that you love when you start working on everything, right? So, but you don't have an excuse. That should not be the reason why you should not start. All right. Thank you very much for that, Chidema.
You're welcome.
So, part of the question that I hear a lot of beginners also, ask is what tools should they be learning? What tools should they be learning? So, and you know that design landscape is filled with a lot of software, right? There's Figma, there's Sketch, there's Adobe XD, there's quite a number. So, with someone that has, with your own years of experience, if you want to advise someone that is just starting out, right, what skill would you advise them to learn, especially from the angle of these are people that are trying to position themselves with international opportunities in mind from the start, that kind of thing. So that, is it important for us to learn a certain skill so that we know that by that time when I'm looking for opportunities, right, I'll have the right skill set and the right to even qualify for those opportunities?
Okay. So I would say Figma. So I would say obviously the basic one is Figma. You should know how to use Figma at least to design. There's also FigJam in Figma, which is what you use for your user research basically. So you can use FigJam to take notes, you can use FigJam to do some sketches, you can use FigJam for your flows, your user flows, all those different things. Then another one I would say is Google Doc, basically, right? So obviously, and Google Doc, Google Form, the whole Google Studio, basically. So if you're going to send out questionnaires to people, you're going to most likely use Google Form to send out questionnaires to people and then get your responses and collate that as well to help you in design. I think for the international market, another tool which would be good to learn how to use is Miro. So Miro is just like FigJam. I think FigJam is actually easier for me, but Miro is just like FigJam. So learn how to use FigJam. Um, and then, just like I said, aside just, okay, even as a beginner, but if you still want to branch out and just learn other things, you can now start with, for instance, Webflow, just to add an extra feather to your cap, right? So I'll say those are the basic tools really for beginners. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. By the way, Miro is Miro. In
RO,
case
yes.
you are worried, it is not it is not your
Your mirror at home. No, no, no.
It's Miro. All right,
Yeah.
thank you for that, Eva. So I think
Sorry,
we had it.
let me add. Let me just add. I think Notion as well is also a good tool that I've seen that people use in the international market as well. So if you know how to use Notion too, so you can use Notion for collaboration, for documentation, for different things. You can even use Notion for your portfolio. You can use Figma for your portfolio, or you can use Figma for your resume. All those different things. I just wanted to add that. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that, Chidima. So I
Mhm.
think the one we just talk about now is, the hard skill that you need to learn. So, but when we talk about when we talk about soft skills, right? What soft skills should we be looking at? I think you touched a bit on that, but just to emphasize a bit, there's hard skills, there's soft skills. Hard skills has to do with the technical skills, right? But in terms of soft skills, we know that it's also very important and things that are looking at for that organizations are looking out for in designers. So, what soft skills would you say that we should be focused on or we should be working on as a beginner?
Okay, so soft skills, I think again, that is I kind of mentioned most of them when I was talking about like the skills that you should know. So I think number one soft skill really is that problem solving skill, right? So for instance, now if you're trying to look for an international job, and there's something called whiteboard challenge. During the whiteboard challenge, they'll give you a program, so they are there, your camera is on, everything, and they are watching you, so they'll give you a problem to solve, right? So what they want you to, they don't want you to design it, like design everything, because you cannot do that in one sitting, but they'll give you a problem to solve, and then they're looking at how, number one, you communicate with them, number two, how you think, which is critical thinking, number three, how you try to solve problems. So for instance, if they're telling you to solve a particular problem now, they'll, if they're looking at if you're going to ask them questions, if you're inquisitive, all those different things like that. So soft skills that I would say again, number one, problem solving, number two, creativity. You need to also be a creative person. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. Number three, you need to know how to think critically, so critical thinking. Number four, empathy. I don't know if I mentioned that, but you need to have empathy, which is tied to user centric because you're trying to design for users. Then you need to also, I think I've mentioned problem solving as well. So for hard skills, I think which other one have I missed? Teamwork and collaboration is also very important. So they also want to know how you work in a team because they most likely don't work in teams, especially in um big companies. Basically, you need to know how to do research and all of those things. Then hard skills that I would say is number one, wireframing. Do you know how to wireframe? Do you know how to actually put elements together? Do you know how to do prototyping? Do you know how to all those basic things? Because for instance, now for some of them, when they give you those, some of them might not do the whiteboard challenge with you. Some of them might just give you a task, and then they'll give you maybe 1 week or a couple of days to do the task. But they're expecting you to come back with everything cumulated from the beginning to the wireframe of it, and then you do the presentation of it. Do you know how to speak well to people? Like all of those different things are very important. So yeah, those are the basic soft and hard skills that are needed.
I think that summarizes it. Do you know how to speak well? Can you solve problem and and communicate it effectively while you're doing that? So very important. All right. So moving on. Now when it comes to applying for remote roles, positioning is key. I mean, how you position yourself is very key. So how does a Nigerian designer need to present themselves differently compared to um, others? And you know that the fact that we are applying from Nigeria, right? It's don't let me say it's -1 in that sense, but it's kind of -1, right? All right. So how do you position yourself? What are the things that you ensure that you are doing as a designer to ensure that you are competing? Um, I mean, you are standing out. You stand out when it comes to presentation of your portfolio, of your resume, and all of that. What are the things that you should be looking at?
Okay, so I think the first one that I would say is having a full knowledge of what you're doing, of the work that you're doing. And I think that's where a lot of people miss it. For me, I like to collaborate with designers from European countries, right? I've worked with a number of them. I still work with a number of them because those people know what they are doing, especially in design, right? They know what they are doing. And when it comes to problem solving, when it comes to things like that, like they know their onions. You might not see a lot of them. That's why I did not start with posting on LinkedIn and Twitter. Those things are very good. But the first thing first is you need to actually know your onions. There are a number of people who I have worked with who seem very like out there, like you always see stuff out there, but when it comes to the work, it doesn't come to par. So you need to know what you're doing first of all before you even say you want to position yourself, because like I said, the market is very saturated. Everybody and their grandmothers who are trying to get into design would first of all, and don't want, who are trying to get into tech, sorry, and they don't want to code, they don't want to do data, are either going to do product design or product management. Those two things. And then there are other aspects as well, but those basic ones, right? So you need to know what you're doing, you need to know your onions. The second one that I would say is, aside that, go for events and network with people. I can't count how many gigs. I mean, let me say I can count because I want more, but a number of gigs that I have gotten, and even the job that I do right now, I did not apply for it. It was somebody who referred me, and then I got the job, right? So you need to know how to network with people. And this is also where effective communication comes into play. So are there events that you need to go to? There's, I think, I don't know how many of you know of Untitled Design Conference. There's also the Google Developers conference that they do yearly as well. There's Untitled Design. There's She Code Africa Summit. There's Women We Tech Summit. All those different things. Go out there, and when you go, someone like me, I'm very introverted. I'm mostly reserved, but when I go out for these things, I push myself as much as possible to talk to people and just try to get a feel, just try to understand what they do. Because number one, you can learn new things. That's a good way to network. That's a good way to meet new people. And then different opportunities can come your way that way. Then another thing that I would say is, as much as possible, also put yourself out there. So I'm not saying that you should go and be joining Twitter fights where people are fighting, engineers and designers are fighting and all of that on Twitter and all of that. No. But once in a while, churn out, post what you have done. Let people actually see that, oh, this person has done something. If you go for an event, let's say for like Untitled Design Conference or something, you go for the event, post about it online. Let people see that, oh, you went for this event. If you spoke at an event or something, like blow your own trumpet, really, right? That is why. So when you blow your trumpet, remember the first thing that I said is you need to know your onions. Because when you blow your trumpet and put yourself out there, you're calling attention to yourself. And if you call that attention to yourself and people now come and meet you and you don't know what you're doing, or your is your story, do you get? So but you need to actually, number one, know your onions. Number two, network with people. Number three, know how to collaborate. Then number four, put yourself out there. Actually sell yourself. Um, if you want to tell story, if you're posting about a particular problem, let me give an example. So I think the first ever post, I don't post so much on LinkedIn these days because of like workload and different things. But the first ever post I did on LinkedIn when I started, I think Blessing knows about it as well. I was still working in an engineering company, and I had worked on a product, right? And I was posting about it, and I told like a story of how it was an artisan app. And I told a story of how, oh, I moved to Lagos from Port Harcourt. I needed artisans to work on stuff. I couldn't find them, blah, blah, blah. I told the story of how I came about this design, right? And then I posted it out there, and I got a lot of conversation, number one, from people who wanted to collaborate with me to implement the design. And then I got gigs, international and local gigs as well. So you need to actually know how to do that. You need to be a good storyteller. If you're posting a case study, I'm sure you guys probably know that, oh, for you to have a portfolio, you need to have case studies in your portfolio. If you're talking about a particular case study, make it as interesting as possible. Don't make it look like somebody is reading a newspaper, like that. Do you get? So all those different things are actually important to sell yourself, position yourself, especially in the international market, because the market is very saturated. And then learn more. Just like I said, I took how many months course on AI design. And when I posted that thing online, I know a number of people who reached out to me as well, right? And I use that in my job. There was something I was working on that I worked on last week. Ideally, that research that I did was supposed to take me maybe 2 or 3 days, but I was able to do it in a few hours because I used some AI tools which I had learned. I'm not talking about ChatGPT and all of that, but I used some AI tools which I had learned how to use, and it just helped to fast track my work. So you need to learn more as well because they also want people that have more value. I lost a one of the things that made me get into start learning even how to use no code tools and even front end development was in 2022. I was supposed to do a gig for an international company and they saw my portfolio. They said, "Oh, you're good and all of that. Do you know how to use Webflow?" I said no, but I'm willing to learn. And they said I should call them when I've learned it. And that's how I lost that gig. So I'm not saying that's the same for everybody, but you actually need to know how to do something extra because they want to know that you can do extra stuff. If you can do gamification, if you can do interaction, if you can, some people can do illustrations on Figma, all those different things, please learn them. Yeah, those would be my answers to that. To you, person.
Great response. I'll just recap that again. Know your stuff. Know your stuff. All right. Networking. Blow your trumpet. Learn more. One critical thing that Chidima mentioned is that don't blow your trumpet and you don't know your stuff.
Yeah.
And what very correct. You know, a lot of people you see them on LinkedIn, and then when you check the LinkedIn profile, you yourself you are suffering from I don't know what to call it. Like one
Yeah.
person. By the time you have a conversation, then you're also thinking, so all the things that you wrote on LinkedIn, are you capping to use the Gen Z word? Are you capping, right? So it is
Yeah.
very important that, but I think that's even the fundamental. Know your stuff. Then ensure that you are blowing your trumpet. There's a lot of people that can do so much, as in they know a lot of stuff, but because they are not putting themselves out there, they short circle themselves or they short change themselves from opportunities. Know
Yeah.
yourself, know your stuff, and also blow your trumpet. Very, very important. So Jidima, you mentioned something important, and I think we'll just touch on it. And maybe I have like one or two questions before we then go to Q&A because we're running out of time. So you talked about networking, and I think it's something that a lot of people struggle with, especially when they are trying to break into international circles. I mean, for one, to have what's it called? To have just 1 minute. So for one, to network in Nigeria, I mean, it's enough, right? I mean, it's enough. What do you call it? Enough mountain to climb in that regard. So now to now network international communities where you're talking with whites, right? It's it's another level for a lot of people, right? So, what do you
Mhm.
think, or what strategies do you think designer can incorporate to network effectively with professionals and with companies, both locally and internationally? I mean, you've talked about the immense opportunities that you got. Even myself, I mean, there's a lot of testimony I can share from that. That literally there are opportunities that you get, international projects as you're working on, but
Mhm.
necessarily you don't even have to apply. Not you necessarily you don't have to apply. It's just a conversation of reference. Somebody knows somebody and knows you, and just came from the fact that you met that person at a certain event, and I mean, you pitched yourself and all that, or you talked about yourself, and the person knows that that's what you are doing. So, what strategies do you think, both offline when you go to events and also online, what strategies do you think designers, especially new designers, can do so that they can start networking?
Okay, so I would say that number one, I mean, I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record at this point, but I have to say it again. Number one, you need to know your stuff. Remember that I don't know if you guys have heard this saying that for you to actually have, for you to be confident, you have to know what you're talking about. So, for instance, now, I don't know if you've experienced people who are just arguing aimlessly, maybe about politics or football or Messi and Ronaldo, and you don't even know how many goals Messi has scored and how many goals Ronaldo has scored. You don't know any of those things. Or you're arguing about maybe Arsenal. You don't even know the players in Arsenal. So stuff like that, right? So before you actually say you want to communicate with somebody, you need to come correct. So you need to know your onions. So for instance, if you're somebody who likes or enjoys the user experience part of things, um try as much as possible to know that and know it well. So that if you meet somebody and you're conversing with the person, you're not just talking out of point. You're saying something which is related or which is relatable rather, and something that you can understand. This ties to both the Nigerian and international market. Try to apply for, if you hear of maybe there, not every one of them actually, but if you hear of um programs, events that you're going to see tech people there, you're going to see designers there, not just design now, which is why I talked about the Google Dev one, right? So you're going to see tech people in general there. There's some of them which are international, which you probably have to pay maybe $1. I know $1 now is like 1 6 or something, or $10 or something. If you can invest in that, try to invest in that. Then there's also the Figma conference as well, which just finished. If you can actually try to be attending, trying, if you can try to be attending all of those things, so that would help you. Then when it comes to the physical meets or physical conversations with people, I'm not somebody who, like I said before, I'm actually more of an introverted person. So I like to keep to myself. But whenever I go for those events, as much as possible, even when I go, people I know or I don't know anybody there or something, I'll probably just strike up a conversation with somebody sitting next to me and just say, "Oh, how are you? Hi, my name is this. I work here. Where do you work?" Ask all those questions like that. Remember what I said about skills you need to have as a designer, which is communication. You need to know how to communicate effectively. So I try to now start all those conversations. And a job that I did early this year came from something like that. I think it was Untitled Design Conference last year. I was supposed to I went for it just on the down low. I went with some people I know. And then some of those people were also speaking at the event or something. And I just struck up a conversation with somebody that was beside me. And unknowing to me, this is a designer that is actually really big, but he's also very quiet like me. And so we just started to talk. And this person, I think he has like three international jobs or something. I don't know how he does it. And we just started to talk. And somehow I got an opportunity from him. And I even learned new things and new skills, new AI tools and new things from him. And I'm sure he also learned a couple of things from me as well. So you need to know how to do all of those things. So number one, you need to come correct. You need to know your stuff. Number two, you need to know how to speak to people. You need to know how to communicate effectively. Number three, go for events. Go for events. Like I cannot overemphasize that, because how will you meet these people? Number four, another thing that you can do again is LinkedIn communities. So there are a lot of communities on LinkedIn itself. There are the designer communities, there are dev communities, all those different things like that. Join those communities. On Twitter, you have Twitter communities. Yes, so there are design communities on Twitter. When people are saying something, maybe like comment in a community or something, if you need to reach out to somebody in the DM, send a message, send a DM or something. Some people are very careful about this because people have overused it for different stuff. But you can also reach out to people in the DM. I know some people who have reached out to me and some people who have reached out to on LinkedIn, for instance, because I'm more active on LinkedIn, and where I'll tell them, "Oh, I see that you posted about this. Maybe somebody posted something on the timeline and I just saw it, I liked it, I shared it, and I followed the person on LinkedIn. And then I sent them a DM. I said, "Oh, I see that you're very versatile in this, or I see that you work here. How did you get the job?" funny enough, there's some of them who are very responsive, who actually answer you. Oh, this is how I got into Microsoft. This is how I got into Google. This is what I did. This is how long it took me. Right. So try to do those things. Try to interact with people. Push yourself. Even if you're an introvert, you actually need to push yourself and try to communicate with people. So I'll say those are the basic things, yeah, that you can do in that regard.
Thank you very much, Chidema. Attend events. Attend events. This cannot be overemphasized. Attend events. Sometimes it doesn't have to be biggest of events. It could be small events. You know, some of the things I say to people is that if there's something that you know you need to learn, right? Um, the best way to learn is to start doing it. You can't avoid it. I mean,
Mhm.
to withdraw from it is not, a lot of people just assume and they just conclude that, you know what, that particular thing is not meant for me. Whatever will come to me and all of that. Just let me focus on learning the skills and things like that. I mean, that's one way to write letter to, I don't want to say the P word, but really, it's one way to write letters to that. You need to be deliberate about and intentional about networking and start small. It could be a small garden of 20, 30, then expand it to 50, then expand it to 100, then expand it to a proper conference. And when it comes to talking to people, sometimes, I mean, I know it could be jittery, but start. You see, one of the things that the way the brain works is that the brain cannot tell the difference between when something is rehearsed and when something is being done. Before you go for events, you might probably need to put down your conversations and just rehearse it. That's how some people do. Literally, I was listening to one of the world leading um, expert or coaches on workplace development and things like that, right? And she was saying that when you go to events, this is someone that is at the top of her career that has spoke with president alongside president and things like that. And part of the advice she gives is that when you're going to event, make sure you note down the things that you want to say at that event, questions you want to ask, because you've done research. Of course, part of things you just anyway. When we say attend event, you just attend event for the sake of attending event. If you're attending an event, make research. What is this event focused on? What are they talking about? Oh, they are talking about UI UX design. What are the questions that I have? I mean, networking with people necessarily doesn't mean that you're on the path talking to the person um, at the same level. Sometimes there are people that are high indicator that all you just need just put together very two questions that you know that you are struggling with and ensure that you put together properly. Maybe you want to use ChatGPT to structure the question. Type the question and let ChatGPT structure it for you. Have it on your phone and just walk up to someone that maybe a speaker that just finished speaking and you know that has in order to give you and just introduce yourself. My name is so I do this and I have two questions that I think I want you to help me with. That's how networking starts. Do you understand? So
Let
it's
me, let me add let me add to that, blessing.
okay.
Sorry to cut you. So another thing I want to add to what blessing just said now is there's sometimes where you meet people and they're just like, okay, especially those people who are just like he said at the top of their career. You need to have your elevator pitch. I'm sure some of you have actually heard of that. And they tell me about yourself. And the way you talk about yourself, the way you position yourself, even if it's wash or whatever, the way you actually do that will make them either want to answer you or want to ignore you. So I just wanted to add that part. But blessing, please go on.
So very important. So I'll pick up from where she stopped. How you pitch yourself also matters. And the way you get better at this thing is doing it. First of all, when we talk about doing it, is there's the part of rehearsal. Rehearse it over and over and over again. Just stand up in your bedroom. Your elevator speech is no more than 1 minute or 2 minutes. So it's something that you can do. I mean, not cram now, but you can rehearse and rehearse to become something that is second nature, right? So it's literally sometimes when I have speaking gigs, right? I just in my room, only me, pick up the slide, and then I'll be presenting by myself, and I will say something funny. I mean myself, I will be laughing because I'm the audience at that point, and I'm both the audience, right? But it
Yeah.
helps because by the time you get into the conversation, you are doing the real life. Your brain does not know, so your brain assume that oh, we are doing it again, and then the thing just literally flows because you've done it again and again and again. Recently, I had a podcast. What was it called? A podcast interview with Tech Point. That's also the thing I did as well. I mean, I just looked at my answer, took my answer again and again and again. And by the time we're having the conversation, everything just kept flowing like as if, but nobody sees that. right? So I think those are part of the things that you guys need to pay attention to as well. Network, and we'll say network, just have prepare ahead, take notes, some of the things that you want to ask, and when you get to the event, rehearse it well when you get to the event, and you can start until it becomes, because what you are, the goal here is until it becomes an habit, something that becomes like a second nature to you, right? Just keep rehearsing till you get better, but have the mindset that I will, rather than have the mindset that it will drop on your lap, or the mindset that, you know what, I don't think it's for me again. I will. And be comfortable with what do I call it? Give yourself grace, right? You are just learning. It's not the first time that you learn something that you become better at it, but the fact that you have the will to learn is what matters, right? So
Yeah.
once you keep doing that, times when it doesn't go well, give yourself grace. You take it again. It doesn't mean you should stop. I mean, it might be shameful, it might be painful. Man, the next 1 day or 2 days, you are not happy with yourself, that kind of thing, but you have to do it again. I'll give you an example of that. There was one time I was supposed to make a presentation, right? And that presentation, the topic, I've I did it again, but the day I was going to present, the thing did not go well as I wanted. For the next 2 3 days, I was just there. But it doesn't mean you stop there. And those are just the early days of presentation, right? You do it again and again till it becomes what's it called now? Something that you can do um anytime, any day, or easily, or becomes a second nature, right? So very important. Because of our time, Chidma, I'll just ask one more question, and then I open the floor to the audience to ask their their question. So I'm going to touch on job search techniques. So finding remote opportunity isn't as straightforward as finding local jobs. So what platform, what job boards do you think you can recommend for UI designer to find international and remote roles, right? When it comes to finding jobs.
Okay, so the first one that I'll say is, sorry, as you're, yes, yes. Okay, so I was trying to remember one of them. I think I had forgotten. Okay, so the first one that I would say is LinkedIn is actually a very good platform for finding jobs. So on LinkedIn, you know how you can what's it called? You can narrow down or tailor your job search to jobs in Canada, remote jobs in Europe, remote jobs in the UK, in the US, all of those things. You can turn on those notifications rather for that. So so I think LinkedIn is a good one. Social media is actually a very good one. Twitter is another good one. I know somebody who, you know how sometimes on Twitter, some people will post jobs. If you follow the right audience on Twitter, sometimes some people will post jobs and they'll just tell you, oh, put your portfolio on that. In fact, that's how we were able to hire some engineers, right? One or two engineers in a company. Somebody posted a job list and told people to post, this is for front end engineer. This is like someone that I know. So he posted, someone different posted a job opportunity and told front end engineers to post their portfolios and all of that and CVs in the comment section. And some people did. And somehow this HR that I know went through that list. He's not the one that posted it, sha, but he went through the list and he was able to get about two front-end engineers that have been very good, right? So post there. Another one is Angel List. You can try Angel List. I think they've changed their names. Sorry, give me a moment. I think they've changed their names. But while I check on that, another one is Turing as well. Um, yes, Angel List is still there. Actually, they've not changed their name. So sorry, guys. I just wanted to confirm. So another one is Turing as well. That's a platform you can get high paying jobs as well. There are a number of them out there. There's Reddit. I know Reddit people use that for gist, but there's also the job section on Reddit that you can actually get jobs as well. So yeah, I'll say those ones. I'll say especially for international job. There's Turing. Turing is Turing. There's Angel List. There's LinkedIn, there's Twitter, as long as you're doing the right things on those places. There is remote.co. There is just remote. You can get tech jobs there. There is, yes, sorry, I was trying to remember this one. We work remotely. You can get tech jobs there as well. Yeah, remote jobs, tech jobs as well. And then on Twitter, I think there's some people who, which is why I said following the right people. I'm trying to find this person's handle on Twitter and they post remote jobs. I think I follow the person on Twitter. Give me a moment, please. There's remote jobs on Twitter. There is Remotive.io. So just like how you're spelling remote, but Remotivio. They post remote jobs as well, like a lot of remote jobs.
But you can help
And
post it in the
international
chat. Just copy it.
type it in chat. Okay, okay. So there is let me post the one that you can find on Twitter. Remotive.io on Twitter. There is Turing. There's Angel List. There is we work remotely. There is, your LinkedIn, there's your Twitter, there's remote okay, there's just remote. Sorry, where am I? Yeah, there's remote okay, there's just remote. So remember that the Remotive.io is on Twitter, please. I think they have a website actually. I just saw the website on their remotive.com. Then let me also check the other one that I follow as well. There is remote jobs. So they're just called remote jobs, remotejobs.com on Twitter. Yep. So these are the ones that I know that I can tell you people have gotten jobs from. Yeah. If I think of any other one again, I'll just drop it in the chat. I hope that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Chidima. Please, if you have any question, this is the time to ask your question. You can drop it on the chat and I can pick them up and ask Chidima the questions. Chidima, please, I just wanted to do something for me and give people on the call to access to speak. There's a little bit issue from my end. Confirm if you can give someone access to speak, like right that 3 dots on their this thing. Can you give them access to speak?
Let me see.
Confirm.
Is it to request to unmute? Is it that one?
Yes, request to unmute. You can do that, right?
Yes, I can see request to unmute.
Okay, thank you. So if you have any question, you either raise up your hand or you drop it on the chat so that we can give you access to unmute your mic and then you can speak. So that, but why your question? I mean, if you don't have any question, we'll probably call it a day. But while you're putting it together, your question, Chidima, I just wanted to touch and talk about the potential salary, right? Maybe you want to talk about the progression, what is obtainable for a beginner, what is obtainable for an intermediate, and the overall salary landscape from Nigeria to international. So that we know what we're, at the end of the day, it is what is give me my money, So let's have an idea of how much in terms of salary.
This one is tricky, Sha. But I think for okay, someone is raising their hand. Should I give the person the request to unmute now?
Yeah, you can.
Abioye.
Okay.
Okay. Abioye, can you speak now? I just clicked on the request to unmute.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good evening.
Thanks for the information, the lecture and the information. Actually, what I want to ask is, I'm just starting to learn UI UX, but it's like I'm not getting it. I'm not feeling. Maybe it's the person that is teaching me or something. I'm not feeling. I don't understand. Is it a must for one to do a sketching before going into Figma, putting it on Figma, and so on?
Okay,
Do you
can I?
understand?
Yeah, I think I understand your question. Can I ask, how are you learning? What platform are you using? Or how are you learning?
Actually, is like a school. I register in it's a physical class. I register in a school.
Okay, okay. So your question is if it's compulsory to do sketch before design.
And to use sketch, yes, before designing.
You mean sketch the tool or like sketching on paper? What's your query?
Sketching on whether using tool or sketching on paper. But I noticed that most of the tools were paid versions. So I think the proper will be sketching on paper. Abi?
Okay. All right. So to your question, can I mute you? Can you mute if you don't mind because of the background? Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so to your question, I think I'm going to just, I know you did not ask this as a question, but you mentioned something about the fact that you're not enjoying what you're doing, maybe because of how the person is teaching you, or however. So I think first thing that I'll say when it comes to design is that you need to actually enjoy what you're doing. So you need to be interested in what you're doing, which is why you start with talking to customers. You start with, when you did all of these things, they seem quite boring to be honest. But those things are very important for you to get into design. So for me, the thing that keeps me curious or keeps me interested in what I'm doing is because number one, I'm a very curious person. I want to always know what's happening at every point. So, and then I like to solve problems. Even before I got into design, I- if you scatter this place and I come here, I'll try and arrange it. Like that's the kind of person I am. So you actually need to be interested in doing all of that. So when I'm talking to customers, I'm putting myself in their shoes to try and solve their problems. So that is one way that I just keep myself interested and just engaged, even in that UX phase, which can seem boring to a number of people. Then to your second question about sketching, it's not exactly compulsory to learn how to sketch before design. But for me, for most of the time, not every time, I don't sketch every time I'm doing this before I do design, but most of the times I would sketch first. So maybe just scribble how I want it to be. Then I'll probably do the user flow. But I want you to understand that you cannot just jump into the user design or the design just like that. You actually need to understand the user's problems. You need to understand what you're trying to solve. So there's the design thinking phase. I'm sure you've heard of that. There's empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So you need to empathize with the user. You need to define what the problem is. Then you need to ideate. So that ideation phase now is where you do all the sketching and all of those things. But before you do all those things first, before you now go to Figma or Adobe XD to say you want to design the thing there. Right. So maybe I don't know the school that you said you're in a school or something. So I don't know the school. So maybe that is the approach that they want you to have. Maybe they want you to understand that first. So I think maybe what you can do is you can try to ask them, why do you want me to, what is the reason or something for doing this sketching, to just try to understand why they want you to do that first. And then if you do that, you can maybe try to do your sketching on Fig. I thought you can do that on FigJam, or you can do the wireframe approach, or you can do your user flow on FigJam, all of those different things. And the aim of it again is to ensure that you're actually solving the user's problem before you go ahead and design. So I don't know if that answers your question. Um, Apioye Akonde. I'm sorry, I can't see your full name. That I'm just seeing the name that is showing here. I don't know if that answers your question. Can you unmute? Let me do the request to unmute again.
Okay. Yes, you just unmuted me now.
Okay.
Actually, it's not that the school is making us to sketch, but
Oh,
maybe because of the time is a 3 month something and it's twice in a week. And again,
oh,
there is no space for interaction again. Maybe that's what is affecting me. I don't know if
oh,
you can suggest any. Maybe privately, if we can chat privately. If
okay. Yeah, you can actually message me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn. I know that Blessing will probably also talk about minutes. Okay, thank you. So I know that. So, can you mute? Thank you very much. Okay, so I know that there is a training program that TSDA is putting in as well. So I'm sure he's going to speak about that as well. So yes, so you can he's going to speak about that as well. So there's a design program that TSDA is starting. So you can join in on that. But interaction, honestly, when it comes to design and learning, is very important. You need to the interaction between the students, the teachers, all of those things are very, very, very important. But yeah. Okay, so I think I'll just take Favor and then Benjamin.
All right, hi Chidima, good evening. Thank you so much for this session. It has been very insightful.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so my question, or I don't know if it's a question. So for an intermediate, for instance, like now, you just finished learning a course, of course, you learned product design, and especially if it doesn't come with maybe an internship, maybe um, crash course and all. So it's easy to feel a bit lost, like you don't know what you're doing or you don't know where to go from here. Um, how do we go about things like mentorship, like portfolio creation, and getting internships? How do
So,
we go?
okay, can you repeat that again? Sorry. So I get the whole
All right.
uh,
So,
question.
okay, is it from the start or just the question?
No, like the question itself.
How do we, or those of us that are just transitioning from learning the course to actually wanting to work or intern, how do we go about um portfolio creation, getting internships, mentorships and all that? Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'll start with the first one, portfolio creation. For your portfolio, even as a beginner, you need to have at least two case studies in your portfolio, or at least, let me say at least two or three case studies. You can have, you know, that if you see a typical portfolio now, there are some sections that you just see UI design where they just put the UI design, right? But if you're getting into product design or even UI UX design, you need to have a case study. And a case study is basically a compilation of what you have done from the beginning to the end. So if you did if you were able to interview users, if you did your research, if you did user flows, all those different things, you need to put them in your case study. And like I said, your case study, we're not talking about that right now, right? Because it's a very long, it will be a very long lesson. But your case study needs to be as interesting as possible because you don't want to bore people that are looking at your case study. So I think the first thing that I'll say again, just to reiterate, is that for your portfolio, you need to have at least two or three case studies on your portfolio. Now, the next question that some people might ask me is, oh, for my case study, I don't have a particular project that I have done or something. You can put a passion project on your case study. There's a particular site. I'm trying to remember what they are called. Give me a moment. So I'm trying to remember what they are called. And you can actually get case studies from there as well. Like once I remember, I'm going to put it in the chat. So you can get case studies from there as well, right? So like they'll give you questions, they'll give you like stuff for you to do, ask you questions. and then you can just work, not case studies, I'm so sorry. So they can ask you questions about a problem, and then you can work on a solution. And once you've worked on a solution from beginning, which is the empathize phase, where you interview users, you do your user research, all of those things, till the design phase, you'll now put it there on your portfolio. So the next one that I said, I think you spoke about internships. So the way that people can get internships is number one, by applying, well, sorry, by going for events, number one, by joining communities, number two. There is this Figma community called Friends of Figma. There's Friends of Figma Lagos, Friends of Figma Abuja, Friends of Figma Port Harcourt, Friends of Figma Ilorin, Friends of Figma International ones, Canada, all those different ones. You can join, and that's another way for you to get mentorship. There's She Code Africa, there's WeTech, there's Zuri. There's Zuri internship that you can apply for as well. I think I did Zuri internship when I started, so I applied for it. Although if you have a 9 to 5, it's very tasking because you need to be churning out designs and stuff. So sorry, let's not be like I'm rambling. Number one, for networking, for mentorships, for internships, you can join communities. So I mentioned Friends of Figma. Let me try and find the link for Friends of Figma Lagos. In Friends of Figma, there is She Code Africa, which you can join the design community. There is IDF community. So if you know of IDF, Interaction Design Foundation, so there's IDF community. Okay, I just saw the link for Friends of Figma Lagos. I can just drop it on the chat. Where's the chat? Sorry, guys. Okay, so that's for Friends of Figma Lagos. There's IDF community Lagos that you can join. I don't have the link for that. I'm sure TSDA is also going to create a community as well that you can join as well. So there are so many of them that you can join. That's a good way for you to get mentorships. That's a good way for you to also get internships. And then there's some times where internships as well, you can reach out to people as well to tell them, oh, is there an internship opportunity in your company? Right? I want to apply or something, and then you can reach out to them, and if they have, they can give you internship. But the downside is to that is that sometimes those internships can be unpaid internships, especially for in Nigeria. But if it's international ones, they'll probably give you an incentive or something. So you can apply for those internships. I don't know of anyone off the top of my head that is ongoing right now, but maybe if we chat, you can send me a message on LinkedIn, and if I get anyone to, I can let you know. But yeah, those are basic ways that you can do that. But please also try to join a community, because you cannot learn design on your own, and you can't do this on your own really. So even if you don't want to join like the WhatsApp community, there are Telegram communities, there are Twitter communities that you can join, but just try to join a community basically. I don't know if that answered your question to some degree. Favor, your hands are still raised. Let me see.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Hi, Benjamin. You had a question. Is it Benjamin? Someone else had a question. I don't know who it was. Okay. Um, I'd just like to answer a question I'm seeing in the chat. Samuel, he says, is it advisable to accept a gig or jobs at an intermediate level because it's necessary to post projects we have worked on online at all? Or do you have to master skill before you can actually bring yourself out? Is it advisable to accept? Okay, so the first thing that I'll say, Samuel, to your question, and I hope I'm answering it rightly, is that you need to, first of all, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but you need to know your onions. You need to know what you're doing. You need to know what you're bringing to the table, as they say, right? But you need to know what you're doing, basically. So, accepting gigs or jobs would actually help you to learn better. There are some things you might not know if you're doing work as a freelancer. which you will now learn when you begin to do work in the office setting. So for instance, now a freelancer is mostly concerned with user centric, user this. But somebody who works in a company is going to be putting the business side of things and the user side of things together to try to ensure that they are married together, right? So if you need to accept, there's sometimes where you need to accept the job or the gig or something to actually learn a particular skill for yourself. But at the same time, if there's something you need to learn, you can learn on. Some people cannot learn on their own. Some people can learn with communities and all of that. If there's something you need to learn, you feel like, oh, I don't know how to prototype well, so let me learn this. You can actually learn it, but you don't need to wait till you are perfect in that before you start applying for jobs and gigs. Again, you can get the knowledge. I'm so sorry for rambling. You can get the knowledge which you're seeking when you get the job and the gig. One of the things that I learned from my job right now from another designer is um illustrations in design. I did not know how to do any illustrations at all, right? But this particular person knows how to illustrate, and the person started to teach me how to illustrate. That was not why I was employed at the company, but is an extra feather added to my cap. And now I'm learning how to illustrate. Do you get? So don't wait till you're perfect or till you're a master or something. You can always apply. If you feel like or maybe you feel like you're not there yet or something, you can apply for internship just as Favor was asking. But yeah, you can always apply at any point. I hope that answers your question. Thank you. Okay.
All right,
um
thank you, Chidima. I think you might want to go to the question that's about the salary part, and then we
salary,
end up here.
money. Okay, so salary for a junior designer, Nigerian company, I think I would say from 200 to about 400. I hope I'm not shooting too much, but from 200. I don't know if any junior designer is any less than 200, to be honest. Then for an intermediate designer, I would say from maybe 350 to about 500, 600. Then for a senior level designer, I'll say from about 500 to 1 million and above. That's for Nigerian companies. Then for international companies, I would say for junior designer from $800 to about $1,005 or something. Then for intermediate designers, I'll say from $1,000 to about maybe 3K. Sometimes you can pay you as high as 3K. I shadow. Do I know anybody that is an intermediate that ends like that? I think 3K, up to 3K, yes. Then for senior level, even up to 5K sometimes for intermediate, to be honest. Then for senior level designers, I think and this is per month, by the way. And then for senior level designers, I think from maybe 3K to 10K, 12K dollars or something per month. It just depends on the organization. Obviously startups might not pay you as much as established companies. For instance, a Microsoft or Google or something will not pay you 3K dollars. They'll probably pay you 10K and above. And then there are also, for the person I was asking about internships, Favor, there are Microsoft internships that you can apply for. There are Google internships that you can apply for. They are very, very like tedious, but those internships exist, and that's a good way to put your foot in the company and just proceed from there. So I hope that answers that question. Yeah. Hi, Blessing. Back to you. Okay, she's not here. I don't know. I think he said he's having network issues. Does anybody have any other question? I think he has joined
Hello,
back.
can you? Hello, can
Yes, I can.
you? Yeah, great. Struggling with network a bit. So, thank you so much, Edima. I think that answers the question. And I also want to thank you for joining the call today. This has been very insightful, very, very insightful. So speaking to everyone, and also speaking to those that have asked about our courses. So, by that you can apply for, right? You can check the website to make to do your application. So I'll drop the link of the website in our chats now, so that we can directly just look at that course. Because you're on this webinar, if you make what's it called? If you decide to apply, because you're on this webinar, we're going to give you a 20% discount because you're on this webinar. So if you decide to register,
Hi, Blessing. I can't hear you anymore. I don't know if it's just me.
have that's why hello, can everyone see hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. I
Okay,
lost
great.
just
So
for a bit.
just know that you join this webinar, and then the discount is going to be applied on your course. So I just dropped the link on I think, have I dropped it? Okay, so I just dropped the link for us. So that's one of the way you can register. Just go to the website. Alternatively, you can reach out to this number. Just call the number, and we are going to attend to you. I'm dropping the number now. So if you're interested in our courses, like you mentioned, our courses are instructor-led. By the way, Chidima is the one that is going to be taking us or taking you in the US course. So you already have this stuff. You can see stuffs. If there's anything, there's no stuff. I decided to add S so that you people will know. So you can see stuffs, right? So if you want to be part of this course, please apply immediately. And like I said, before September 28th, if you make an application, just mention that you attended this webinar, you are entitled to a 20% discount, and I'm going to make that we're going to give you that immediately. I'm trying to drop the number that you can also reach out to if you need to reach out to us, right? Just a minute. So please just start up the number on WhatsApp or make a direct call to the number. A minute, still trying to get the number. I'm almost there. Okay, good. I've seen it. So please, you can call directly to do that, and you can also message on WhatsApp, whichever one is convenient or works for you. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining this call. Like I said again, you can check the link that I shared to look through our UI/UX course and some of the things that you're going to be learning in the class. So if you want to apply immediately, and mention that you attended this particular webinar to hire, and you get a % discount. The other alternative is that you can call directly to that number and say or send a message to that number. So thank you, Chidima. Thank you very much for attending.
Hello.
Okay, you have a question.
Yes, is the training online or physical?
Training is online. It's going to be virtual, but trust me, it's going to be. So
That's
everything that
the problem I have is the one that I'm doing physical class, there is no space in the center. So there is no space for interaction. If I don't understand, me and my classmate cannot meet. That's one of the problems. So you won't have anybody to complain. And most of the time, the instructor will not be available to put you through. At times, even if they are there to put you through, they will not have that patience. But if you are interacting with your classmates, it will be easier.
So Abi, let me ask you, the way you saw Chidima take the class today, does it not look like somebody that would not be or that tend to take you what you want to learn?
No, that's not what I'm saying. She's
No,
occupied.
I'm giving you a snippet of what you will get. What I'm trying to say, this is not a conversation we're having yet. So what I'm saying here is that if you join our class, it's instructor-led. Chidima is going to be taking this UI/UX class, and Chidima will not even go to the next level. For my own personal opinion, Chidima will not go to the next level until you get it. Do you understand? And
Don't
Chidima will
forget
ensure
time frame. So she wants to work on the time frame too as well.
we have a community, we have an alumni community. So the good thing is that we have an alumni community where you can still reach out to us even after. So we have like a mentorship. So after your training is done, it's a mentorship group that you're going to be added to. So all of the questions that you have, you can ask us in that community, right? So we are dedicated, led, right? Your classes are going to be held virtually, but it is live classes, right? Three is that there's a community where you can always ask questions, and you're going to be working on projects, right? There are going to be a lot of assignments, a lot of projects, because it's a serious business. If you are here to learn, you are late to learn, right? Then after the class, once you are done, right, we have there's a community, there's a mentorship community where everyone is going to be added for those that sign up for the class, and every questions that you have, you can ask on that group, and answers will be provided for you, right? Because you are an alumni, you have access to all of those opportunities. Do you understand? And this added for every internship opportunity that we have access to, we are definitely dropping on that mentor group as well. So please apply for this mentorship. All of this thing that we're talking about that you say we can learn, once we see them, we are dropping them. There are some that directly people are reaching out. For instance, as at last week, one of my HR networks reached out to me that is looking for a web designer, and that's how they reach out to me, looking for roles. You understand? So for those opportunities that we are privy to, we are dropping it on that mentorship group for everyone that wants to be a part of that community. What I'm saying in essence is that we are committed to you learn. We are not committed to just pass on the knowledge. Committed to you learn, right? And if you follow how Chidima take this session today, Chidima is always he's a dedicated trainer that ensures that whatever it is that she's teaching you, you understand it. So if you'd like to be part of the class, please, you won't regret to be that you have or you made that decision. And like I said again, if you want to join, you have a discount opportunity. Reach out to us using mentioning that it is from this webinar, and then you'll be given a 20% discount. Thank you very much, everyone. I think we've spent quite a time on this call. All right. I hope you all got the number. Let me drop it again in case some of us missed the number. Let me drop the number again. All right. So please either call or send a message, or you can register through the website, right? But to activate your discount, it would be good to reach out directly so that we can apply your discount on it. All right. Thank everyone for joining the call. Do have a wonderful. You can take a screenshot of, I think maybe in our next listen we'll do that. By the way, we're having a session this weekend again. It's called you can ask us any question that you might have as starting out as a newbie, just starting your career, or you're a beginner or you're intermediate. We are running an Instagram live where you can ask us any question in that regards. All right. Thank you very much. Chidima, I don't know if you have any last word for the class.
So thank you, Blessing. I just dropped the link now to, when I was speaking about the case study and portfolio, I mentioned that you can use a particular site to get like challenges that you can work on a case study and then put on your portfolio. So I just dropped the link in the chat right now. So that's one of them. There are a number of sites online as well that you can use to get challenges and all of that to practice. But thank you again, everybody, for listening. Thank you so much to those who asked questions. Thank you for to those who even listen, and thank you for joining. And thank you, Blessing and CSD, for the opportunity. Yeah, it's been a wonderful one for me as well.
We'll see you another time. Thank you for joining, and do have a wonderful evening. Bye for now.
Yeah, bye.